Hi guys, good morning. Sir Dan here, and today we're going to the next topic in our delivery plan, and this topic is knowing your audience. So when we talk about knowing our audience, we can ask some questions, and this includes who's buying what you're selling, what are their hot buttons, what are their needs, which of those needs is your client's product or service equipped to satisfy? So these are just a few of the many questions your client, if you're an advertiser, these are just a few of the questions that a client can um, can answer by means of doing research. Okay, so when we speak about research, in this case, we define it as the gathering of consumer intelligence that enables everyone else in the ad agency to make intelligent decisions. So when you say intel or intelligence in this context, we refer to what we call information. Okay, so what is the information that we can gather so that the ad agency can make a very good advertising campaign, for example. Now, there is a word here that I would like to highlight or point out. Okay, um, hot buttons. Okay, so what do we mean by hot buttons? So we can look it up in a dictionary. Okay, just give me a second. I'm gonna share um, the definition. Okay, so if you look over here on this part of the screen, the left side of the screen, you'll see that a hot button is a subject that is important to people and about which they have strong opinions. Okay, so these are issues that people talk about. All right. And then let's go back to the PowerPoint presentation. Okay. All right. And oh, we have Sarlane with us today. Chachu, good morning.
Hi, sir.
Okay.
Morning po.
Morning po. Opo. So, parang DJ lang muna ako ngayon, no? Kasi
Oo
babasahin
nga,
ko,
sir.
babasahin ko muna yung mga laman ng slide. And then I'll call on you to participate kapag kailangan, ha? Okay?
Okay po, sir.
All right. Okay. So we'll go now to the next slide. All right. Speaking of participation, sige, now I need to ask you, Chachu, look at the picture. Okay. So we have an iPhone in the left picture and a Samsung phone in the right. So kung tatanungin kita, anong mas gusto mo sa dalawang competitors, sa dalawang model ng phone or brand ng phone? Ang iPhone ba o ang Samsung?
Samsung, sir. Kasi po iPhone user na po ako ngayon.
Okay. Pero
Tapos,
mm, sige po.
po. Pero dati po, nag-Samsung na po ako.
Okay,
Okay
interesting.
naman yung iPhone, sir. Kaso yung battery niya kasi,
Ang
yung lifespan
Samsung,
ng battery niya po. Yung Samsung po kasi,
mm,
matagal malobat. Yung iPhone, ang bilis.
okay. Um,
Apo.
pero no regrets. iPhone kasi ang phone mo ngayon.
Ano po?
Walang regrets. No regrets kasi
Oh,
iPhone
wala
yung phone
naman, sir.
ngayon. Okay, battery
Wala
lang.
naman po. Yung battery lang, opo.
Okay. Bakit ka napalipat sa iPhone?
Actually kasi sir na regalo lang. Kaya ayun po.
Okay. Okay.
Opo.
All right. Okay, one more picture. Next slide. Sagot lang po. Ay, lumipat ng picture. Teka lang. Okay, let's see. There. Okay. So this is a meme from the internet. It was also posted in a website. I think it was adobomagazine.com. I'm not sure. Um, so Jollibee or McDonald's? And since you're my only student today, Chachu again. Jollibee or McDo?
Jollibee, sir.
Bakit?
Ewan ko, kasi 'di ba parang meron tayong ano, sir, parang stereotype na pangbata lang yung Jollibee tas pagdating ng mga teen gano'n, McDo na. Pero mas feel ko pa
Okay.
rin yung mga pagkain sa Jollibee po.
Okay. So, kung one word that you can use to describe Jollibee, word
Kids po.
association, kids. Okay. McDo.
Opo.
McDo naman.
Ah, fries? Puwede ba yung ano nila, sir?
Fries. Okay lang, okay. Whatever pops into your mind first. Sige. Samsung. One word, first word that pops into your mind.
Ay, hmm, ano ba?
Korean? What?
Hindi ko alam, sir.
iPhone na lang. One word that pops into your mind. First thing that comes to your mind, iPhone.
Camera po.
Camera. Okay. Maganda ang camera ng iPhone?
Yes po. Opo.
All right. All right. So that's an example. Thank you, Chachu, of uh, doing research in advertising, although it's a very simplified example. Okay. So we have to know our audience if we're going to be advertising practitioners and we're going to make a campaign for a client. So aside from the intel we mentioned earlier, consumer intel, we also have what we call market intel or market intelligence. So sa market intelligence naman, we are looking for information about customer demand, what are the products of the competitors, and we use all of this information so that we know how to advise the client, or the client mismo could decide what products to sell or what prices to charge. Okay, so this is actually more for the client than for the crafting of an ad campaign. Okay, so this is from the Cambridge Dictionary. Okay, so how do we find answers? In a perfect world, we could just ask, like what we did earlier. I just asked Sarlane some questions about products and to competing restaurants in the Philippines. But the problem is that if it's that simple, sometimes it's not enough. Okay, we might end up asking the wrong questions, or the answers we get might or might not be helpful to a prospective advertiser. Okay, so also visiting consumers in their own homes, that's another strategy some advertisers or marketers do to see how these consumers use the products or services in a real environment. And of course, the walang kamatayang survey. Okay, so conducting massive surveys can also yield lots of data. And which technique is the one to use? Honestly, they could be used in combination. You could use more than one. It really depends on the need. Okay, so kung naalala po natin yung ad agency na SS plus K, they said they use an asymmetric approach. So they don't just choose, or they don't just stick with one kind of approach or one way of researching or one way of doing a campaign. So the technique really depends on the need. And we proceed. So sources of data or sources of data. And this topic, I suppose, is familiar to all of you because you're fourth year. students and you are doing your thesis little by little. So this isn't a new topic to you, the sources of data. But we're going to study this now during this lecture, specifically in the context of advertising. Okay, so primary data is first. It's the new information the company gathers directly from respondents. So how do they gather this data directly? They can gather it by talking to the consumers. They can conduct surveys or other forms of researches. So primary research is focused specifically upon the issues that need to be answered if you are going to develop a successful campaign. And an example of this is if a company does a telephone survey of consumers' opinions of the latest campaign. So maybe they've already done an ad campaign and they want to know what people think about it. So they can do a telephone survey. And this would fall under what we call primary research. And then, okay, one of the things we have to know about primary research or the gathering of primary data is that it's expensive to collect. But even though it tends to be expense intensive, it is extremely useful to guide the organization's thinking because what better way to get information than straight from the horse's mouth? That's an idiom that means directly from the source. Okay, and in contrast, so that was primary data. Now, with regards to secondary data, it had already been collected. So it's already finished. The research has already been done, probably, and it was done for a previous purpose by a third party. And this third party routinely performs this kind of research. So a very common example, or very typical rather, example of this is when our government conducts a census. So the government collects information about the citizens who live in a house, their age, their incomes, how many people live in a household or household size. So these are examples of data or secondary data. Okay, and in the next slide, okay, so we've got the difference between primary market research and secondary market research. Okay, so on the left, in the left column, you have primary market research, and that includes conducting interviews, the dissemination of questionnaires or a set of questions, and this can be done online, which is very common nowadays. You can make a Google form and have people answer your questionnaire. It can also be done through the telephone. It can be done in person or face to face. It can be done through the mail, but that's less common nowadays. And also through intercepts. What are intercepts? We'll discuss that in another slide. And we'll also discuss in another slide what mystery shopping is. So if you're curious what mystery shopping is, we'll answer that a little later. And you've got focus groups. So of course you've studied that
Shopee siya.
already. Ah, Shopee ba?
Ay, hindi po. Sa Shopee.
Ah,
Yung
okay.
mystery.
Yung mystery box, yung di mo alam kung ano
Yun
yung
ba yun,
bibili mo.
sir? Opo.
No, not exactly.
Secret.
Uh,
Sure.
mamaya. It's
Okay,
actually
sir.
it's a marketing technique, a way of conducting market research. Okay. And then diaries, mamaya may example tayo ng form of research where people will journal their thoughts, their experiences. Okay. And then for secondary market research, so these are usually already done.